Hi guys, and welcome to this SamLabs tutorial video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to create loops in SamSpace app. For those of you who are interested, we also have a tutorial video on loops in SamBlockly, which is showing you a slightly different way of creating the same thing. But for this video, we're going to be focusing on SamSpace. Loops are a fundamental part of computer science and allow you to automate different kind of processes, to repeat the same sequence of different events, and a really useful tool in programming. In SamSpace, we're going to be creating these in a very logical way, thinking about the different steps involved, how to get those different events to happen, and laying that out in the typical SamSpace visual programming language. The way that I think about loops is you've got a series of different events that you want to be looping through continuously. So first you want the first thing to happen, then the second thing, then the third thing, etc. And by breaking down what a loop is in this kind of a logical way, that allows us to construct it piece by piece using the different blocks, both physical and virtual, within SamSpace. The physical block that we're going to be using is the Sam RGB LED, or the light, and that's going to be our output. The rest of the blocks we're going to be using are virtual blocks within the app. So the first thing I'm going to do is to connect a key press onto my canvas there, and the key press will act as our input. The next thing we're going to need is a toggle, which is going to allow us to turn the system on and keep it on as well. The way that we can actually move between those different events within the loop is using an interval. So as long as the system's turned on, the interval is going to be sending a true, false signal, which we can use to basically move from one event to the next event within our loop. So I'm going to be dragging on the interval function, which is under the timing controls, as you can see. Now, the way that we can actually determine where we are within this loop is by counting how many of those true signals that interval has sent. So when it's sent 1, it's going to be the first event. When it's sent 2, it's going to be the next event, 3, etc. We're going to set up 3 different events that we're going to be looping through in a cycle. And you'll see what those events are in a second once we connect them. So to count where we are, I'm going to use the counter. And as I mentioned, because we only want 1, 2, 3 different events happening, I'm going to go into the settings on the counter, and I'm actually going to change the range so that it only counts from 1 to 3. So that counter is basically going to count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 repeatedly in a loop. And we can say that when that counter is equal to 1, when it's in the first position, using the compare block here, equal to 1, we want the first thing to happen. When it's equal to 2, the second thing to happen, etc. So I'm just going to be setting that up, equal to 2. And the next one is when the compare block is equal to 3. So those are the 3 different conditions. And what we then need to do is define what those actions are. And as I mentioned, we're going to be using the RGB light as our output. And what I want that light to do is actually to change color as it's going from the 3 different positions. I'm going to choose 3 random colors, and each one of those is going to represent a different event, and then that's going to be toggling through. So if I grab 3 of my color blocks, I connect those up. And you can see I'm going to choose the first one to be pink. The second one is going to be yellow, and the third one is going to be green. So 3 random colors, and then of course I need to have my LED as the output, so I scroll all the way over to my blocks, drag that around, and connect all those colors into it. So what's going to happen now when I press that virtual key press, that spacebar, on the SamSpace canvas, is going to turn the system on with a toggle. That toggle is going to be sending a true message into the interval. The interval sends that true, false, alternating signal. The counter is going to count how many of those trues it's received, and when it's received 1, it's going to go pink. When it's received 2, it's going to go yellow. When it's received 3, it's going to go green, etc. And it's going to loop around. So let's test it out. I've got my light here. I press the button, and as you can see there, that light is then changing color to those 3 different colors. Might be a little bit hard to see, but if I shine on my hand, you can then see that a bit easier. So, of course, that's a very simple example of a loop. You could use the same principle of a loop to build much more advanced things as well. As I mentioned, this is a core part of programming, so it's a really key thing to know. And with SamSpace, you can understand that fundamental logic of how a loop works. So it's a really handy way of thinking about it. I would love to see different ideas for loops that you guys have. Mention them in the comments below. If you have any other ideas for other kind of tips or tricks you'd like to see, do let us know as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.